Welcome everybody to our live stream here. It's Thursday night game analysis stream, subscriber stream I call it, to thank our subscribers for their active participation. It is time to analyze your games. Welcome everybody. Asterbait. Hey, it's Miro. I just got a message submitting a game from you. So these are the following players that we've got games from. Thanks to everybody. It's Mirales, Yubates, all the S's, Princess Chess, Asterbait, Move 11, and Miro. Move 11 is in the list, ranked number 5. VIP Morales, VIP Asterbait. Guys, I need some water. Thirsty. Not drinking enough. You probably won't be last. By the end of the stream, we'll have some more submissions. Hey, it's Miro. I don't know what time it is there, but if you want me to do yours earlier, let me know. If anybody is in a hurry or wants to be here while I analyze the games, I can move one game up or something like that. But welcome everybody to our stream. Competing with Tata. Weikanze going on today. What time did the Weikanze game start and finish? I haven't had time to watch live. Does anybody have the round times for Weikanze? I'm not even paying attention to when that's going on. It's good to have a long chess tournament back. Though I don't really personally subscribe to the idea of having serious tournaments while COVID is still raging across the world. I think it's kind of a weird idea, but we're going to get started with Morales first. They started like 2-3 hours ago. Really? Seems like I've seen this all day long. People streaming it. Maybe not. It's just my imagination. So they could be in mid-game now. Alright, hey, I've got enough games to analyze, so I'm not getting on that bandwagon. Trying to do commentary in the only tournament in the world. So Morales. Where is Morales? Alright. We'll do it this way. Where is Morales? There is another way to do this. Wait, let's check the inbox. Asterbait, thanks for the donation. So 4 p.m. Budapest time. That's right then. You're right on the money. 2 hours and 45 minutes. Do they use like old school time controls in that tournament? It's probably one of the only tournaments where they're still on a fairly long time control, no? Hey peeps, Princess Chess, thanks for joining us. Asterbait, thanks for the donation, 100 bits. Still don't have a gift sub for this week. I've got cheers from Asterbait up to 1,000. Yesterday, Cash Maui donated 200. Princess Chess, welcome. Morales, 69. No, that's not the right person. Why does it say Morales 69? Who is that? Who is that? It's not Morales 69. A Morales. Alright. Is this right? Hey, just in case you have time, here is a game. Oh yeah, because he was from last week's. Maybe Morales wouldn't even be here. But he had submitted a game for last week. I added him to the front of the list. I forgot. Because we didn't get to his game from last time. So I just added on to the front. Yeah, he may not even show up. I didn't tell him I was going to do this. But we missed it last week. Sack SMD. Alright. Man, Morales playing white. Maybe I'll play the French against him. Look what he does. He does this against the Caro-Kann and the French. Now I understand why he's playing this against the Caro-Kann. We had games where I was playing black and it was like E4, C6, D4, D5, E5, C5. He's playing like C3. Bishop F... Or no, how did this go? C3, knight C6. I showed this to you, Move 11. I had a horrible game. I lost to Morales in this line, where he goes A3. Not because of the opening, but I lost later on. But it's funny, he's doing this anyway against the French. C5, C3, knight C6, knight F3, bishop D7. Did he make a comment? What did he say? I thought he said something about the Milner-Barry. We have several people who play that. Someone on Sound who didn't submit a game for this week also does the Milner-Barry. Seems like it would appeal to the Smith-Mora style players. Alright. Spectacular Camel, welcome. It's been a long day at work, so I'm going to enjoy a beer here. It was really weird weather. It's like spring outside. There were people playing chess in the city park. There was like 3 guys playing chess at the new chess tables in the city park in Budapest. And I've never actually really seen people doing this. 2 days ago it was like sub-zero temperature. And 2 days later there's like dudes setting up their chess set and playing chess in the city park. There were people playing volleyball outside. Crazy weather here. It was like 50 degrees Fahrenheit today. So, I guess on the southerly side of the Varshligat, there's a whole lot of chessboards. The south side of Varshligat. But the funny part was like one guy was there by himself, like he looked like he was sick. He was like blowing his nose with a mask around his chin. I was like, that's somebody I really want to play chess with. Definitely wondering why he didn't have an opponent to play with. Like a COVID infected chess hustler was looking really, really seductive. Let's check this out though. Bishop D7, A3, A5. Okay, A3 is a really well-known line. I don't play this personally, but I knew someone who did. Really strong FIDE master, friend of mine. He always played this A3 stuff with white. Standard ideas. I mean, C4 is the main line. I think Ullman would play C4 with black, probably. You can play A3 a move earlier. Not too common. Specifically after Bishop D7. This is analyzed by Kasparov a little bit in his book called Revolution in the 70s. But Kasparov would play the black side of the advanced French. Even though he didn't play the French, he didn't have a lot of respect for the advance. This is a system that was analyzed a lot by Yevgeny Sveshnikov, I think, playing white. He's a big adherent of the C3 Sicilian and also advance French, which kind of fit together. But in any case, A3, A5 isn't very common. I've definitely seen this done, though. It makes sense. Yeah, the park chess hustlers, I have a lot of experience with that kind of stuff. Not here, but in my life. I never played the hustler chess scene in Budapest. Back in Boston, I did a lot. Or New York a little bit, but there used to be these players in the subway, but it was really disgusting down there. I guess in Varashmayor, in the other park over in Buda, there used to be more outdoor chess players. Not so much in the Varashliget, but maybe now that they made it nicer, I would assume people would start using it. Anyways, a5, bishop d3. What I want to say here. No other options. You just passed the hardest law exam. Good job. Now you can focus on the important thing, chess. So bishop d3. Yeah, he takes. So queen b6, putting pressure on d4. Another option is obviously like a4. Congratulations, man. "10 to 15 years ago, exactly." No, that's what I used to see. I would walk through there all the time. In Ugati. But they kicked them out, I guess, eventually. At some point in the last 10 years, all the stuff under there was kicked out. Not just the chess players, but other stuff. Anything that like didn't have a license, including chess hustlers, was pretty much kicked out. But it was a really ugly atmosphere. We're talking about the local outdoor chess scene here in Budapest, which I never really got involved with. Yeah, chess hustlers are pretty nasty. Boston was pretty good. New York is pretty gross. I don't like the atmosphere around that kind of thing usually. Anyways, this is an interesting line. a5, bishop d3, cd4. See, the problem is he's opening up knight c3 for the white knight. So, and I know from fact that there are positions where you can pin this knight if he captures here. I mean, if you check out the way that Morales played against me in some Caro-Cans, he used a very similar strategy. Here's a game where Eviano Enrico like beat Kaidanov, which is American players I know. Enrico's a C3 Sicilian player. That's an upset, a major upset. 2500 beating a 2600. Bishop c2. But it looks like black's misplayed. Why does he have to trade pawns on d4? This is the question. How does this benefit black, the exchange of pawns? This is something I was talking about with Asterbait literally like an hour ago. Why does exchanging this pawn on c5 for the pawn on c3 tangibly benefit black? If you don't have a reason for doing that, then don't do it. I mean, it's that simple. So queen b6. Like, normally the problem would be white starting to take on c5 and then hit you with, like, b4. But it doesn't work. We've got the a file. So my point is, if you play, like, queen b6, you got pawn takes, bishop takes, white can't play b4. Because you're just taking here and then taking on b4 with tactics. Not to mention, like, f2 is hanging with check. So, black actually looks pretty good. What are you going to do? Sack a pawn. Okay. Take. It's also possibly knight h6. So you guys, Bijak, take it easy. Knight h6 looks like a good waiting move for black here as well. I wonder if there's any way that white can get away with some sort of traps like taking here. You know, I was going to speak Hungarian. I have this... You know, I speak to other people here a lot in Hungarian, and so I almost said, look at this in Hungarian. Bishop takes c5. This is interesting, but there's no b4. because of the A file. There's an old game from '76. This is the kind of stuff that Kasparov was talking about in the book. It just doesn't look like it does anything for white. So you have to play bishop c2. And this is the only way to hold the d4 pawn. So it's like a waiting game. Very interesting line. Korchnoi. 04. Pretty late. Korchnoi was getting up there by 2004. Not in top form anymore. So what do we got? Our first game for today. Morales playing white. Takes the pawn. You know, we can't do any kind of tricks here, so we're just sacking a pawn. It's a form of Milner-Barry. Knight c3. I mean, if this pawn was back on a7 and white's pawn was back on a2, you would have a standard main line of the Milner-Barry. And you've got to ask yourself, do ancient aliens really exist? You've got to ask yourself, well, who does that like really favor? It honestly looks like b5 is a weak square to me. This is permanently a weak square because black can't play a6. So if I had to say this favors somebody, it probably favors white. Because a5 is a more weakening move than a3 is. But the scoreboard here, let's see. Morales dropped a piece. It's not obvious that this drops a piece to me. No, that's the main line. Duck. That's the main line where black's taking the pawn e5. With the pawns on a2 and that's the recommended variation. Queen e5, rook e1, queen b8 would be normal. Again, with the pawns on a7 and a2. And then white has like knight takes d5, bishop d6, queen g4, king f8. But I think the fact that black has played a5 matters here, probably. But this is the number one move according to the opening explorer, queen b6. I mean, Morales' move looks logical. If d4, we have knight a4. There must be a problem. Okay, maybe he just forgot that black has queen c6, and he's losing a piece here. That's likely what happened. So Morales just blundered. This just loses a piece. White has to play another move. Here, queen d8, and now we're just spatially better for white. That b5 square looks like a really important point. The fact that we can just lodge a knight on b5, even just right away, I would imagine this is better for white. Let's see what the oracle says. Yeah, I mean, knight b5 is really strong. It prevents knight e7, which would be his best way of developing. So black probably has to play something along the lines of knight h6, I would assume. This actually happened in a game. White has great play in this position for the sacrificed pawn. So instead, he went to a4. This is probably a fast game. 5 plus 3. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to recommend here for black. It's still not a pleasant position. I still don't like this. that weakens black's position further. And b5 is gone. I guess rook b8. And then a4 is going to happen? Or what? And you have to take, and then bishop... Oh, this looks like something like the time that Morales like sacked his exchange against me with rook a4 in the Scandinavian. You guys remember when he did this? e4, d5, takes, knight d5, bishop b5 check, knight on bd7, c4, a6. No, wait. It must have been a different variation. It was this? No, it was this. This. He did this against me. a5, a4, takes, and rook takes a4. It's reminded me of that. He's doing the same thing to this guy with this diagonal. This is some idea he pulled off of somebody's YouTube channel or something. I don't know. Some other streamer. I was like, what? Rook takes a4? Pretty strong. Without that white square bishop, I was just mauled. It wasn't pretty after this. I thought he was just like making it up, but it was all prepared. So it looks like white's winning in the game in question here. The point is bishop c2, and I didn't see that either at first. Someone mentioned Rosen, but it wasn't a Rosen thing. Yeah, it does seem like a Rosen thing. But it was too obscure for Rosen. Rosen likes stuff that is really marketable, that he can promote. This is more obscure. I think it was Chess Mood. So it looks like, yeah, bishop c2 is killing. He just missed it. Oh my god. I can't believe Morales missed bishop c2. Against me, he would never miss it. That's crazy, dude. He misses bishop c2. And if rook b4... Well, that doesn't help. Duh. Dude, that's crushing. I can't believe he misses this. After that game with me, he misses bishop c2. That's unbelievable. Now he plays bishop c2. That's so sick. Why can't black just castle? Damn, dude. I think white is probably winning after castles. I mean, white is probably lost, excuse me. Lost is different from winning. The opposite, in fact. White is close to lost here. But man, you missed that. This was not a perfect game. Avoiding the exchange of pieces. How strong is this opponent, by the way? Oh, this is another guy from our stream. Man, I'm beginning to wonder, why did Morales submit this game? It's almost like Kira Kospes submitted it on behalf of Morales. So black goes on to win. Yeah, but it was a nice opening trap. Alright. Ubatis, what's up? It was instructive the way that white got a winning position there. But I can't believe Morales misses that after that Rook A4 game he played against me. I don't know. I would never forget that. Definitely not from my perspective. So we got a game here from Ubatis. Just played a very nice game. The end game especially nice. Alright. This is the correct game, right? Not from last week or something? Am I submitting last week's game for you? Welcome everybody to the stream, BG. Thanks for being a subscriber. Thanks everybody. Spectacular Camel. You're making me want to play knight c3, man. You know, I mean, this is nice getting out of book on move 1. There's something appealing to that. You could really work this into a nice weapon. Of course, when black plays g6, it's hard to get in independent territory after that. If black just wants to play the modern defense. h4. h4 is recommended. That's, I remember from the Link Springer book. There's this German book from like 20 years ago. I was asking about it, why he doesn't have the book. It's a really thorough book on the Van Geet opening. I call it the Dunst, but maybe Van Geet is more correct. But h4 is one of the only, I think, really interesting independent tries. I mean, look, I've had games with e4, c5, knight c3, g6, h4. Turkey Farm or Testosterone played that against me. And then you look, Modulev versus Jones. What is Jones doing on the black side of a closed Sicilian? He's supposed to be playing white. Look at these guys. Carlsen, Modulev, Christian Bauer, and Anton Guijaro. That's a pretty nice lineup. Well, it's now or never. If you want to play h4, it's the time to do it is now. Before black's ready for it. Anyways. This is something else. So g6, g3. It's never too late to play h4. Guys. In honor of Panda. Panda's out of reach. This is Panda Cam live. He hasn't been on the stream.
Hey, I can be in 2 places at once. My favorite move is h4. Don't forget it. Isn't it cool? I'm everywhere, like Visa.
Nice having you for a little guest visit there, Panda. It's been a while. Go back to your usual place. He's just a little bit out of my reach. Usually I keep him closer. Bishop g2. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Knight f6, bishop g2, d3, whatever. Castles, e4, e5. Alright. I don't know what you call this. What do you call this opening? It's a kind of... Well, it's actually the Vienna game now. I wonder... Spectacular Camel, have you ever played the Vienna game? I mean, it makes sense if you play knight c3. I would assume you have. I mean, knight c3, e5. This is a form of Vienna game. Vienna Gambit is a line. I like e5 by black. It's not a bad move. It looks out of place somehow. Well, I mean, c5 is a transposition to a kind of closed Sicilian. That's probably fine. d6 is a Pierce. You have your choices. Knight c6, experimental, but you're eventually going to have to move a central pawn here for black. This is a weird move. Yabatis does this kind of stuff. C6 looks like a good idea. Black's playing for D5. And now black has to be thoughtful. The thing is, anytime you're playing against the close Sicilian or something like this, Vienna, we have two threats: undermining the central pawn or possibly pushing past with like a kind of space gain pawn storm. On the other hand, white's king is on e1. I mean, there could be tactics based on queen h4 in some positions. It's a little early. I mean, if you take here, I would think this would be the way for black to play. He probably should take, open the diagonal for the bishop, look for pressure on this e-file, try to hit you with d5. So his next move is a serious mistake. I mean, I'm going to say it's a mistake. He really needs to take. Spectacular Camel, I don't know, it seems safer to take with the bishop, but I feel like you wasted a move with that bishop. Pawn takes is risky. I mean, there's knight h5 coming down in here. There's d5 trying to shake the center. Though maybe white's got so much space it's not so bad. But I think we see the downsides of bishop d2. If the position starts to open up, it's not the most useful move. In any case, like black plays this. That is not as scary for white to deal with. Though it's a solid move. Non-threatening. What does the Oracle say? Oracle. The Oracle says it's close. Oracle agrees with Panda that better to take the pawn. Alright. This is a little passive. Knight f3 is good. I agree. Warnaki, welcome. Welcome everybody. Everybody join together. Bring me your game analysis games. Forget about Wikanze. Let's focus on improving your chess. Am I in the lichess streamer list? Do I have lichess in the title? Let's not forget basic stuff here. Yes. All right. Well, I'm definitely in the lichess title. There may be so many people streaming Tata though that I'm not in the list. I'm on the front page. We only have 13 viewers though. It's really low. Everybody must be watching Tata. I can't schedule my tournament, my streams around these stupid tournaments, these world-class tournaments. What am I supposed to do? This is a subscriber stream. It's important. You can't just cancel it for the sake of some world-class tournament. Anyway. So knight f3 is a good move. I like this, man. Now black plays bishop g4. As I've said many times, dark square pawn structure openings, we normally don't want to play bishop g4. This is a bluff. Black really can't afford to give that bishop up. He's going to have serious issues on the white squares. Yes, there's submission. Definitely. There's room for a submission. Warnaki. So this is a sort of bluff to get white to weaken himself, but I don't think that h3 is a bad move. You know, this is an idea. A lot of times this kind of move might be a concrete weakness for white, but I don't think this can be a weakness here. You can send a game. Absolutely. Anybody who's a subscriber is welcome to submit a game, though I don't guarantee I can get to all of them. If we start getting tons of submissions. I've only got about 8 now, so the max I do is 10. But h3 is not a weakness, it's a constructive move. Anyways, I don't think black should play bishop g4 in the first place. But having said this, I guess he has to take. But that bishop is going to be sorely missed. It doesn't seem like a big deal. You know, right now this is not such a problem. White square bishop, it's a good defender, not so much offense prospects, but in the end game later on, I mean, it might come out here to h3. I don't think the white square bishop is going to be a really useless piece. So, just so you know. Now black played d5. I mean, damn, dude. He gives up his white square bishop, and what does he do on the next move? He literally, yeah, just send me a message on lichess. This is the sickest thing in the world. I mean, here I am talking about how this bishop is restricted by the pawn on c6, and maybe later it can get out on h3. The first thing that black does, he's like, hey, I'm going to like weaken my whole light square diagonal so that your white square bishop is a devastating powerhouse. But I mean, maybe it just doesn't matter. I mean, this looks like it's probably a bad move for many reasons. Coach Edward, welcome, guys. I mean, this is crazy. You can just take here. What's his idea, to take here? Well, okay, so like worst case scenario, you're just like winning a free pawn. This must be what he has. Oh, he had knight e4 and he missed it. Oh no. Geez, so maybe d5 was like kind of a crazily brilliant move. So Yabatis, maybe you should have taken here after all. I don't know, you can submit your game and see what happens. Edward Elric, you're probably getting toward the end of the line, but we might get that far. My thought here was that maybe black just says knight takes d5. Yeah, I thought he was insane, but maybe it's not so bad. No, this is the way to go. Okay. Yeah, okay, I don't know. Takes, knight takes, e4. So if you take here, he takes on e4. He takes here, and then he misses this. He missed this. Bishop takes e5. And now you're hanging on 2 pawns. So I guess you're castling queenside. You're castling queenside. But I don't know, man. I mean, the white square bishop is limited. So I don't think you're that much better here. Actually, you're sacrificing a pawn. Unclear. So the guy doesn't see the simple knight takes e4, and he decides to play this. Which is like resigning, basically. You might as well just resign after knight d5. If white castles and you just take on e5, you're probably okay, but what do you do after d4? Does black have f6, really? Wow. I guess I'm exaggerating. It's unbelievable he has f6 here. I still strongly suspect that black is not okay in this position. It's going to be the white squares that are going to bring him down eventually. The fact that he's given up his white square bishop. Yeah. Wow, just castles, kingside, plus 2.4, according to the engine. Castles, kingside, plus 2.4 here. The white squares. And you're happy you gave up your white square bishop now, right? Where am I? So we got... I'm going to turn off the engine here. Yeah, F5 is nuts. But I mean, here you actually, I feel like, want to hold on to that pawn in E5, man. The pawn in E5 just is going to force him to do what he did, more or less, play F6. But it's crazy that you castled and he played F5 anyway. D4 looks really strong. If there was some way he could attack D4, but there's nothing. His only chance would be to play F6. F5 doesn't open the position. F5 is hopeless. So you castle, he played F5. Well, here it's not actually. This is just so important, the pawn in E5. Gotta protect it and you're winning. I don't understand his move F5. Why doesn't he just take this? He's afraid of bishop H6. But it's not that clear. You know, he could defend here. This isn't... Yeah, I mean, people play bullet chess. They're all forgetting what chess is supposed to be. Like a thinking game. But Yabata should not give him a second chance to grab this pawn in E5. I can't believe the guy played F5. He has a check here on B6. But I mean, it just doesn't seem like F5 is necessary. Bishop takes here, should be okay. He plays this. Now you're exchanging, but why? Why exchange? I don't know about exchanging. I don't mind a queen on E4. If he takes, we go to E4. I guess my first thought would be here. It also guards B2. The problem is maybe he has some weird move like knight H5. So Yabata didn't want any surprises. But I'm concerned that it's getting too simplified. You are up a pawn though. Okay. You're up a pawn. It's enough. Though maybe not after this falls. Maybe you have to even consider that, and maybe you have to play... Let's see. I mean, how are you defending your B2 pawn? You're not. Alright, you're developed here. Now it's a technical ending, your pawn up, but not so easy to win. Yeah, I don't know. Rook F7. Threatening rook takes G7, but that's extremely obvious. You're also threatening rook takes there. What about knight C5? Spanish-speaking stream. Hola. Hola, muchachos. Muy bien, ¿y tú? No, I don't do Spanish streams, sorry. My Spanish is extremely, extremely rusty. Rustier than my Russian. Knight takes F6. What am I going to do? Is knight C5 a threat? Can I go here? Yeah, black's toast. So knight F8 attacking the queen. And an endgame looks likely. How about queen B6 check? Queen B6. Pawn. Now what do we do about these two pawns hanging? Are you sure you're winning after queen b6 check? I would think you might want to consider other options, like queen e7. Things are better, man. Queen e7 is up there. Queen e4. Is it possible queen b3 is a mistake, though? Queen b6 check. We can't take. You just have to move your king. Alright, now you're threatening rook takes b7. But had he played the queen check, you definitely don't want to take and have both those pawns hanging. You're still better there, but it's not great. I mean, this is not exciting. It's a technical win. Basically, these two pawns have to win, plus white's bishop pair. But I think the moral of the story, from my perspective, comes down to a lesson about bishops in open positions. The guy played bishop g4, and then he proceeded to like exchange off his white square bishop, and then allow the position to open up with d5. That's what we can take away from this game. Black trades off one of his, well, better bishop, and then opens the game and gets blasted on the white squares. A lot of inaccuracies by both sides, but you can see how important this diagonal is. b7 falls later. It's a strategic lesson. You just submitted the game, okay. Alright, Edward, Sack Duck, Warnaki. So I've got Princess Chess's game up next. Let me check. Inbox. It's the easiest way to do this. I don't want to submit this game, but I'm going to send it anyway. I was black against the Scotch Gambit. I can never remember or have a thought process that prompts me to play the correct d5. I think I looked at a Scotch Gambit today. I ended up getting lucky against the lower player, but I should have been crushed. I can't spend too much time. I'm tempted to spend too much time on the games, unfortunately, and I have a hard time managing the time. We try to spend about 15 minutes on each game. Alright, let's see. So Scotch Gambit, it's kind of like the Scotch Gambit is the London system of the 90s. Roman suggested this in these old VHS video series. Is the top of the board is cut off. How would I do that? How the heck did that happen? Top of board is cut off. Weird. I must have somehow... That's weird. I've seen it happen in board editor. Did that just start? I don't understand why the board would suddenly be moved. I have it like locked on OBS. That can't really happen. Was it cut off the whole time? It didn't just like move or something. God, the Scotch Gambit. One of my students played this. I don't think he watches my streams. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6. And he played the Ponziani. So he's like 1500. He played the Ponziani and his opponent played bishop C5. This is a really bad move. This is a really bad idea against the Ponziani. You're just walking right into d4. How did he do this? So, he played d4, and then after pawn takes pawn, he turned into a Scotch Gambit with bishop c4. And I was like, oh man, that's a good move, but this is actually kind of strong. If he had just like recaptured on d4, white has like a massive advantage. It's totally devastating. Anyways, that's just another story. So we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4. So you're black here. The thing about the Scotch that makes me nervous when we're black is we're giving up our strong point on e5. And we're forced to do that, which, you know, it sort of sucks. But we have some time. But you can't play passively here, because ultimately white is going to be better with a strong pawn on e4. So it's essential that black plays actively. I think Princess Chess did the Brian Wall. He called this the fishing pole or something. Is that what you're doing? You're playing the fishing pole after knight f6? Yeah. This Colorado master Brian Wall, he used to live in, he's a crazy, weird guy. He used to live in Boston. He was like homeless. But he always had a good demeanor. Brian used to play the fishing pole, e5, knight g4. Fishing pole variation. Looks like Magnus has even played this. Holy crap. Well, anyways, first of all, this should be fine for black. I mean, white, you know, also can of course play castles. I hope you know what you're doing in that too. You know, you have to know that as well. Princess Chess. I strongly recommend knight takes e4. So it's not one variation you have to know. You have to know both. You have to know e5 and castles. Yeah, so you're supposed to play d5, but I recommended this to a lot of people. I would recommend playing the Bronstein system here. Everybody knows bishop e5, knight e4. So as I mentioned on my stream before, this I've played against some people here on the stream. It looks like Shanklin started playing it. Knight e7, it's an old Bronstein variation. Castles, bishop e7, bishop takes e6, b takes c, and it holds up, you know, 50 years later. Knight b8. If anybody wants a good way to play against that variation, this is definitely, I think, more dynamic than the lame knight e4. So I would go with Shankland. Definitely not Shankland's creation though. This is so overplayed that it's worse than the London system. No, d5, yeah, I mean, it's not easy to remember. You have two moves here. And Princess Chess played number 2. This is an important square, you know. Yeah, you have to play d5, but there's also this, right? I mean, this is just good for black. So I don't like this fishing pole. I don't know anything about this though. I would never play this for either side. Wow. So the idea of the fishing pole was that he would like go h5 or something and just leave his knight on g4. I thought. some crazy stuff where you would not retreat the knight off of g4. But I mean, clearly you're in danger along the e file here. I mean, nobody in the right mind plays knight takes e5. I mean, aren't you losing a piece directly? You get pinned and then f4 and you lose a piece. It looks very simple. I guess if I had to, I would take with the other knight, because the other one on g4 is sort of developed. But alright, here, the insane sacrifice of a piece, basically. I guess queen e2 allows queen e7, so rook e1 is preferred, and you're just lost. I mean, how many pawns are you going to get for a piece? You could consider bishop d6 maybe, but I don't see any real sense in that. You're going to have to play d6. So what's the best way here to try to reach a playable position in a practical game? I don't want to lose my central pawn, man. Or woman, or children, or people, or animals, or whatever. If you can hold on to this e5 pawn, you're going to have 3 pawns for a piece, right? Like, theoretically, you could play queen e7 here. But just bear with me, right? This is not possible. Queen d4, knight f3 check, and you're eating the rook. So basically white has to take the knight, and then you take back. And you have 3 pawns for a piece. It doesn't look pretty, and you're probably lost objectively, but you also have weird threats like this. I guess queen h5 could be a problem. Damn. I guess that's the end of the road for this variation. Someone on sound would know this classical maniac stuff. This looks like it's the end of the road. We got to find a better defense. Well, f6. That's it then. But then you lose the d4 pawn. Damn, so there's nothing. If you could hold on to all the pawns, you know. But it just doesn't look like enough after this. You got 2 pawns for a piece. Maybe here like d5 or something. Try d5 and c5. Maybe blockade this pawn on e5. I think there's still like practical chances in a blitz or fast-paced game. So what happens after f4? The oracle says queen e7 is no good. fe5, de5, queen h5, g6. Right. Yeah, I refuted my own variation. So maybe d5. Play bishop e7 and d5. This is your best chance. This is important. Princess Chess. You're down a piece, but you freeze him on the e-file, and you've got this kind of lively 5-on-3 majority on the king's side. This isn't going to be that easy for white to play. If bishop e5 checks c6. If bishop d3, you're fine. You know, you can get a lot going on here with that big amoeba on the queen side. And you're pretty much blockading that. The e5 pawn, his rook is shut down. Bishop e6 is really nice later on. You got the c4. I could see like white messing this up pretty easily in any kind of game that was fairly fast time control. This is a matter of, you know, being an expert in saving lost positions. playing positions like this. So, you know, I think this is a key move, d5. You know, now his pieces are really active. Rook's active, bishop's active. I mean, white's pieces are really, really, really awkwardly placed here. He had no reason he has to do this. Who puts the rook on d5? There's like no chance I'm playing that move. White has to be fairly careful with the dark square bishop and black's lead in development. That's very awkward. I'm not surprised if he won this or saved the game. We might have tactics with bishop c5. Whoa. Queen d7 is simple. Now he plays bishop b5. How does white not play bishop b5 now? Are you serious? You mean he saw bishop h2 check? That's pretty funny. Bishop h2 check, king h2, queen d5. This is actually pretty messed up. Queen d5, bishop d5, bishop e7. You gotta move your rook to b8, it looks like. Or here, here, and here. That's kind of awkward. But, I have no idea what's going on in this position. Black should be fine. This is very tough. Yeah, I have no clue what's going on there. Like, bishop e5 is a blunder. White is definitely down with moving pieces forward. They don't move back. This is... White plays like kind of like a smartphone. All tactics, like white probably does 300 tactics a day. But not a lot of subtle pawn play in white's game here. They go right for that. Yeah, white's pieces are really dominantly placed. That's scary. Inability to control the dark squares. You're in bad shape here. White's probably winning. Yeah, it's +2. Bishop h6 is a nasty move. You're lucky if you have a defense against this. Rook e5. Rook e5. White likes putting their pieces on these really, like, excuse me, exposed positions. I just skipped ahead, sorry. Rook e5, you're hanging on by a thread. Now, what about tactics? Queen g4 isn't possible. Okay, maybe like a retreating move? Does white need to play a retreating move like bishop f4? I bet white doesn't do real well with retreating moves. Look at this, no pawn moves, rook d1. Does that mean you can take on d5 and take on h6? I guess taking on d5 is kind of a mistake. Never mind. I do miss the maiden one now and then. Knight f6 too insane? I don't see it, how you're going to get there. You know, there's no mate. You mean knight f6 on the previous position? Like here? I mean, it's possible there's some other move, but not here. No, I don't think the white had anything better. King h8 is kind of counterintuitive. But you want to play f6. I can see that. It's obvious, like, white's control of the dark squares is very strong here, particularly f6. You can't move the f-pawn, though, because that bishop on c4. So if you could play king h8, yeah, then you play f6. This is a safe move. It looks like he's trying to set up tactics with like queen takes rook or something. I don't know. Rook d1. Very subtle b6. Oh, he does queen takes rook. Does white make any pawn moves in this game? Wow, so he did this. Oh my god. He lost everything. White is like Donald Trump. It's the Trump presidency. White's position. He had everything and now he has nothing. Technically he still has something here, this f7, but it's not a big deal. You're fine. You're totally fine. It's a draw. This is a draw. You take on b2, you save your a pawn, his pawn structure is broken, and then you just defend. You should probably take on b2. I think that's more important than playing a5, probably. I think this is important. If you play a5, he plays c3, see? If you take on b2, he takes on a5, but his pawns are broken. You know, here it's like, you're not even down material. You have a double pawn, BFD, and you just like set up a really solid blockade. There's no way that white's winning here with the broken pawns. This is a very important move. You don't want to give him another chance. You're tied down on f7 as it is, which is kind of unpleasant. The golden opportunity to take here on b2, and there's no way that white's winning after that. So a5, sorry Warnacki. I have to reject your favorite move here. This is a serious inaccuracy. Let's see what the Oracle says. Yeah. At least in like technical endgames, I know what I'm doing. So a5, c3. Now you're tied down to f7, which is really a problem, and b6 is a secondary weakness. It's possible that Princess Chess is lost here. This looks like a very situation where it's very, very nasty. Excuse me, I don't know what to do. You've got that weakness on b6. You can't get your bishop here. You don't have a blockade. Oh boy. You're going to have to defend with like bishop d8. That's a disaster. Oh my god. And white has the pawn majority on the queen side. The Trump presidency 2024 is back in action. Oh, this is sick. He was totally like he had nothing and now he's better again. Maybe he's like winning with the dual weaknesses against f7 and b7 and the possible queenside pawn. Ops color endgames are like my specialty though. I love ops color bishop rook endgames. King f2, h5, whatever. King f3. King f6. I don't think I like f6. I want you to move like your pawn up to f6. Though maybe you could bring your king up here and walk it over. I don't know. This is a really unpleasant position. He still didn't move any pawns except for c3. h6. He moved a pawn. Now you're just like doing nothing. Okay. And there comes the queen side. Oh man. But I mean, b4 actually weakens white a little bit. Jim, what's up? Good to see you. I wouldn't be surprised if this is lost. He has outside pawn, permanent pressure on f7. There's even like mating nets. So f5 is like, whoa. Maybe that is a good move. Here comes the pawn. f5 is a good move, I guess. Check. What about going active with his king? Computer prefers king f3, surprisingly. I would definitely lean toward the active king here. But maybe he's still winning. What? 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 I'm sorry? He didn't know about e2. That's not fair. You didn't tell him about the e2 square? So he queens and you played this? Oh my god. And you missed mate in 2 with bishop there and rook h4. I mean, it's hard to believe you're winning after the guy just promoted. Do you just let him promote, check him like a spite check, and he misses king e2? Plays king g3, which not only allows a draw, it loses by force. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I apologize. The rook's not protected. No, no, no. I'm sorry. Don't worry, Princess Chess, you didn't have mate in 2. I forgot his rook isn't protected. Don't freak out. It's okay. It's not true. I'm lying. Sorry. Sorry, that needs to be protected. So what he did here is actually okay. So he didn't even have to play king e2. Okay, so he's just winning. Whatever. He's totally winning. Oops. And now it's interesting. He had about a rook margin of error there. Wow. Quality. Check. Rook g4. I offer a draw on behalf of your opponent. This is a dead draw. It's not a win. It's almost a draw without the bishop, but it probably is a win. Is it, actually? No, you don't even need the bishop here. This is a draw without the bishop, king on g7. Easy draw. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's definitely a draw with the bishop on the board. If the king was on g7 and there was no bishop, would white be winning? Yeah, maybe he would. I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating. The pawn would need to be back on like f7, rook on g6 or something. Yeah, you get behind. You get behind. It's a win. No, this is definitely a draw. There's no question. But I don't want to move stuff forward. You know, I don't think you want to move stuff forward here. Just move your rook back and forth between the support points on e4 and rook g4. Princess Chess, you want your pawns further back probably to be safer, unless you're playing for a win here because of time considerations. It's still a draw. No, it's not, obviously. Now, if there was no bishop here, this is a win for white. Would the pawn advance to f5 like that? If black's pawn is on f7, I had this against Josh Friedel once. I need king g7, f7 pawn, rook g6, rook e6, rook g6, rook e6. It's a draw. But every time you move those pawns up, the queen can get behind your king and like force it out or zugzwang you. Oh my god, you had bishop d4 check. Oh my god, this poor guy. That's sad. Poor guy. I'll spare the rest of it, man. G6 f5 pawns? Maybe. Is a fortress. Alright, Astrobait's up next. Princess Chess always submits the longest games. Or the games that make us analyze for like 20 minutes. Half an hour on one game. Okay, this is Astrobait's game for this week. It says, Indian game reverse Chigorin defense. Please look in Hall of Shame. How to lose a one position. Astrobait, you're not submitting a loss, are you? What is this? This is a win. You mean your opponent is in the Hall of Shame? Princess Chess, you really need to learn like the first 6 moves of the opening. At your level, you're like the only person who's like 2,100 on lichess doesn't know 6 moves of theory. At least 6 moves. Just 6 moves. Probably. To be fair, like, people have played knight g4, but come on. I mean, that's totally not... You don't want to play, like, unprincipled moves when you don't know the theory. Like, I think I'm just going to play knight g4. Alright. This is Astrobait with black. d4, knight f6, knight c3. Why did it say... Oh, Chigorin reversed. Okay. Yeah, Astrobait. I don't recommend c5 here. Yabatis in the other game played knight c3 on move 1. Jim's lying. Says he doesn't know 6 moves. Jim has a very narrow repertoire. He absolutely knows his first 6 moves. You have like 3 openings that you know really well. Alright. So I don't like this, man. You're playing a bad Benoni after this. That's a lot of space for white after d5. Okay, Astrobait has played the check Benoni. This is not even a check Benoni. It's worse than the check Benoni. Like in the check Benoni, you're playing against c4. This is a form of old Benoni, modern defense. g6 is the best. But, if I have to play a move, I'll play g6. Not great. Schmid Benoni, or something like that, after g6. But a6. We're going our own way. Dubious. One problem with a6 is that it will restrict your knight maneuvers. If you play a6 early, we can't use like knight a6, knight c7 type of Benoni ideas. White should probably play a4 here, but it looks like e4 is also good. e4 or a4. Because if e4, b5, don't tell me you played that, oh my god. It's a really messed up pseudo Benko. Yeah, this is bad. I guess e5. That's just oof. That's a Roblox oof sound when your character dies. after e5. Man, this is not good. You're just done. I don't know. What about e5, b4? White probably has two winning moves here. Takes or knight a4. But they're both terrible for black. After knight a4, you're just like losing your c5 pawn. Not recommended. Yeah. Asabe needs to take more time, pay attention in the opening. Here, it's not too late to come to your senses and play d6. Yeah, I mean, after a3, like, White's giving you the e4 pawn in exchange for the b pawn. I still think this is going to be a really bad Nescafe Frappe attack. Let's see, takes. I'm going to go out on a limb and say knight b5 is probably not sound. But I'm not sure. It's too slow. Black just plays bishop b7. Alright, this is fantasy land. We can't do that. So, let's see. Asabe, you have to play b4. I don't really know what White's best is. I guess takes. You could play knight a2, going for the b4 pawn. Like a Sicilian. He can play here, looking at this square. If you try to take the pawn, White gets extremely nasty compensation with bishop e3 and that square. Yeah. This is like, it's a hybrid between like the Sicilian and the Benko or something. It's bad for black for sure, but it's not as bad as what happened. This is far worse. It looks like after bishop b7, I mean, you're getting hammered by e5 again. This bishop is a furniture. Bútor in Hungarian. After b4, e takes f6. Or let's take first. Take. You know, like this. Like, what is your bishop going to do on b7? I'm not sure that's the best variation for White, though. But there's all sorts of possibilities. This is garbage for black. b5, a3, bishop e7. And he played what? White played b3? b4 might be a decent move, actually. I don't know. It looks a little risky, though. That's actually bad, too. Yeah, I mean, e5 is game over. Probably. b5, you still have to try the crazy b4. I mean, e5, b4. I guess takes. Takes here. It's like a really weird Blumenfeld Gambit or something. This sort of thing looks terrible for black. I mean, it's just an absurd move by White. b3. Now you play b4. And he's got that square. It's something. So bishop e3. He can't find it. This guy can't find the remote control to the television. I mean, bishop e3, queen d4. There are several different lines where White might have some play here. Knight b6, the hanging knight. So there's still really serious counterplay for white after bishop e3. Well, counterplay, I mean, yeah, he sacrificed the pawn, but he's dominating. White's better here. Materialistic, greedy Stockfish says white isn't really much better. Wow. Yeah, see, it's plus 0.3, but only 0.3. 0.4, it's growing. White is... Material is not as important as control of the position. Masturbate's still worse. This is a weird move, though. Okay, he's developing his king side, but the bishop has no scope. I mean, honestly, okay, he can't play bishop d3 because of this, right? That's the problem. The bishop should go to d3. Oh, no. Yep. And that's it. White had to play g3, I guess. How's king e2 doing? King e2? It doesn't look healthy for white, but, you know, it might not be that simple. I don't see an easy win. All sorts of fanciful variations here. Simplest is just like taking, and the king is just chilling in the middle of the board. Sort of like a bomb exploded in the middle of the position. But Aspay, good job. So if g3, obviously knight takes g3, pawn g3, queen takes rook. Is that completely lights out, though? You know what? I'm thinking this isn't so clear. Does Asterbait have a winning position in reality? Maybe we should go further. Takes? Like, seriously, I'm not sure. Queen g3 check is fishing, but if queen h1, we have bishop e3, control of b6, g1's protected, f3's protected, the white king could castle queenside. What's actually going on here? Is it possible that white is winning? g3 was best, you could say that again. g3, knight takes g3, h6, queen takes, bishop e3. So the analysis engine gave bishop e7, knight c5, takes, queen g2, hitting g3, now knight e2, grabbing a pawn, queen d4, queen f6, king e2, queen f2. Well, this is just a different variation. So queen f6 is the final analysis of Stockfish. And black is winning. Yeah, he's down the exchange. And I wasn't really thinking clearly. He is down in exchange. So, still, he can fight on there. Alright, Asterbait. There was a mate here after queen h4 check, king f1, queen f2. White missed a subtle point. He was obviously expecting knight g3 check with the tricky win of the rook on h1 when he was suddenly assailed by queen f2. Move 11 is up next. Guys, thanks for subscribing. We can appreciate your support. Asterbait and Cash Maui donated 1,200 bits this week. I'd like to keep up in subscribers. This is my way of giving back to subscribers. One of my ways of giving back to subscribers by doing a serious game analysis every Thursday. So appreciate the support, guys. Move 11 is up next. I've got those games listed. Alright. Move E. Always ask your mate. Astrobate's getting better, but he's sometimes losing his concentration. Guys, by the way, I sent out a message today. Sunday streamer battle on the schedule. 2 streams on Sunday. The tournament is entered for 3 p.m. Sunday. I also have Simul on Sunday, and tomorrow morning we're going to be back with Blitz and Rapid Chess. Excuse me, just Blitz on Friday. 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Blitz challenges. I'm thinking of trying to do something different on Wednesdays, so if anyone has a suggestion for Wednesday morning 11 a.m. stream, maybe I'll start playing Hearthstone or something. Alright, for the stream today, I'm submitting the game, I guess that's Yui Wang against Oliver Barbosa. Is that any relation to Yui Wang? Like they spelled it differently, or just another random game? Wang Yui? Is that just a coincidence? I've heard of Barbosa. He's a Filipino guy who's living in the United States. Alright, let's bring this up. I never met him. Don't want to look at the graph. It's not pretty. Random. So random guy against Oliver Barbosa playing the Caro-Kann. E4, C6, D4, D5, F3. I haven't been looking at this. It looks like move 11 is exploring new options against Caro-Kann. F3. Yeah. This Queen B6 is interesting. It has a huge score. So the idea is to play like a delayed E5. Everybody knows this old variation, like take and E5. But with Queen B6, it's a strange looking move. You're actually like controlling this diagonal. It makes a lot of sense. When white plays F3, you want to just take advantage of the diagonal against the king. Normally from a queen pawn player perspective, that's how I'm looking at F3s. Yeah, this is fantasy variation in English. Last week we dominated in a team battle. I was hoping we could repeat. Yeah, Queen B6 is known now. It's become kind of a topical variation. It ties down white to the B2 pawn. I don't know if white can gambit that pawn. I mean, you would think like, okay, what about bishop E3? Just like straight up gambiting the pawn. This is a stupid question, but I just want a stupid answer. Queen B2, Knight D2. Kind of like a London system pawn sack. It may not be like absurd. White's picking up time for development while sacrificing a B pawn. It's only plus 0.5 and probably a very unclear position. I know that I never want to take pawns on B2. So maybe this is a novelty worth considering. Bishop E3. Black has other moves though. Interesting, Stockfish finds Knight F6, but who's going to find that over the board? And even this is not that clear apparently. E5, Queen takes B2. Knight d2, knight fd7 with a weird French. Anyway, just something to think about. I mean, maybe bishop e3 has never ever been played. It would surprise an opponent. So knight c3. Yeah, like the computer wants to play e6, but I mean, honestly, like that's the safest line for black. I was playing in a tournament in February. Speaking of Hungarian grandmasters, Horvath Yoji, who's like really, really solid, played this. I mean, this is the gold standard for black. You play e6, and when white plays knight c3, you play bishop e4. The problem is that it's very positional. It's pretty deeply studied. It's a closed position. It's not new. But that's the go-to way for black to play. Wednesday is chess history. Alright, I will keep a note of any suggestions. Make note of any suggestions for Wednesday ideas. I'll have to go through the suggestion box. But I mean, I'm a little bored of the opening, weird opening stream. It doesn't get a lot of viewers, and I should do something different sometimes. I'm a little too stuck in my routine. So anyways, here, whatever. That's like a main line. Queen b6, here. So takes. The idea is e5, a delayed e5. But he doesn't do that. What? Okay, so this is weird. Partey. I can't drink too much because I have to record a video after that stream. I don't like to party without drinking. Non-alcoholic parties are no fun, in my experience. So what are we doing here? Wait. Knight c3, pawn takes pawn. But you can play e5 right away. This is another possibility. But I just don't really get like playing e6. So that's interesting. You could play e6 like Horvath Yoji, and then when he plays knight c3, you're like, no, I'm not going to play bishop e4. I'm going to go here. Navarra. But nothing recent. Nothing since 2016. So this is yet another like mystery variation. It's all very gray area. That's the way the fantasy Caro-Kann has always been. Not enough players play this line for there really to be like solidly established theory. Honestly, I don't really get e6 and queen b6. It seems weird. I like queen b6 with the idea of tearing open this diagonal. But it's a strange decision to play that e6. Alright, anyways, here. Okay, so now obviously like everybody plays capture on e4 in this position. Both are possible. Actually, this looks really solid. Navarra again. An old game by Yubava, which I always thought was weird that Yubava plays the Caro-Kann. He's like a maniac. Like why would a guy who's a maniac play the Caro-Kann? It just doesn't make sense. But I guess at his level, like you just can't be a complete maniac when you're playing other strong players. It just seems like a strange choice for Yubava. D takes e4. I can understand like Ivanchuk, he plays everything. But this is interesting. So white is now playing the black Bardemer Gambit after bishop c4. So you've got some random guy playing the black Bardemer deferred against the grandmaster. I had a game once where I was black. My opponent was a 1900, and he played this. Knight c3 right away. I mean, it's not that stupid, honestly. Someone on sound, I don't know if someone on sound is here. I'm surprised he doesn't play the black Bardemer Gambit. But like c6 is not exactly the best move against the black Bardemer. This is also not absurd. Timur Gareev, of course. You can definitely play an improved Black Bardemer, but I don't think you're going in that direction, someone unsound. So anyways, we'll take a look at what happened here. This is totally up someone unsound's alley. Knight now bishop c4. And black, if he takes, is playing like the Black Bardemer with queen b6 and c6, which is really, really dangerous for black. You know, you can't just like play any move against a sharp gambit. So we play this. But what's the idea? I would assume like all of black's ideas have to hinge on the dark squares. Now that we've given up our strong point on d5, we're playing for dark squares. So everything that black's doing now will hinging on playing e5 and cutting that diagonal. But there are some complications with well, what, like for example, this is a little tricky. You're going to lose a piece. We should note this tactic here. Queen b4 check. Oops. Even someone on sound would see that. So white has to take back with the pawn or not take back. He plays this. So check this out. Also, bishop b3 has been played. That's a total someone on sound move. You're getting into, hey, maybe this is actually a hillbilly attack. Now, you're never alone here, man. Always people who appreciate your gambit style, someone on sound. Maybe not me personally, but we have a lot of them. Jim, Acerbate, who else? Who else appreciates a good unsound gambit? Hillbilly deferred, maybe? So this is the best move according to the engine. We've got the only move that makes any sense for black, e5. And now I don't know what white necessarily should do. So I aggressed 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a woman player who's like married to the Grandmaster aggressed. Black is a 27 or 2479 I've never heard of. That's weird. A lot of underrated or overrated people running around with 20k factors. It's real easy to like get to 2479 if you're like 2301 or something. If I can get a little lower, maybe one day I'll ask them to change my K factor back to like to 20. I could easily be 2479. The problem is once you're screwed with a 10k factor, you're done. Your rating is set in stone for the rest of your life. Anyways, e5 takes. Yeah, I don't like takes a lot. Can white maintain the tension here? So Timofeyev played this, and what's black's move? See, that's the trick. He wants to wait and see, well, what useful move do you have, dude? Knight on bd7, maybe. No, it's an intelligent waiting move. It's the daughter. I'm sure she has a 20k factor too. Maybe 40. I'm just bitter. I don't agree with FIDE. Man, I found out there was this guy. FIDE has like fake grandmasters running around. I was doing some research today. I'm not going to name names, but I found one grandmaster, FIDE grandmaster, who's a complete fraud. And like you can't find any information about it anywhere. It's like buried in the FIDE X files. The guy's rated 2598, and he seems like he's a complete fraud. But he hasn't played for like 18 years, so maybe they figured it out. Just kind of covered it up or something. F takes e4, e5. He still has the title, though, which is kind of scary. Anyway, I like that. I like that bishop e3 move. Let's see, knight on bd7. David Pruis against Kashi. Tim Wall against this Hawkins guy. And Astana, who streams here. The Irish Championship 2017. So this looks like an interesting idea. The only question is, white have anything against f7? Neither player played pawn takes pawn. Yeah, I think Astana would be interesting if he didn't play so much bullet chess. Seems like a talented guy. Knight on bd7. F takes e4 though, and e5. That's the plan. So this looks like an interesting line anyway. If anyone's interested in the theory, I like bishop e3. So apparently, black has to play knight g4 now. Wow. Acerbate. It's a combination of Princess Chess and Acerbate. Subtle threat. I don't like white structure, but if it works, it works. So queen e2. At the end of the day, black has given up structure, but has good play in the dark squares. I mean, white has given up structure, but black has good play in the dark squares. This is interesting, man. Thanks for submitting this game of 11. Very interesting stuff. Bishop g4 seems strange, doesn't it? Or is it just my imagination? Has he got some crazy idea here? How does bishop g4 benefit black? I guess it just develops a piece, and you got to get it out of the way. So why not? The F file. Very Summon on Sound style. But like that other game I talked about, you know, we've got to be careful with the white squares. Interesting game. Now it's starting to look like some kind of weird Slav. Black's playing a6, a5, I mean, h3. Warnaki. Where is black putting his king in this game? It's a good battle. So a5. He's not even clearly threatening a4, is he? This is kind of like a bluff move. He's not threatening anything directly, but if white castles queenside, you just move the queen and it's all of a sudden like you're getting wailed on by these pawns. It's like the preparation of a kingside, well, whatever you want to call it, pawn storm. You're talking white out of castling queenside. So white has nothing better, just plays h3. Where are we putting the white king? Now maybe white can play like knight h4, knight f5 or something. I'm getting kind of desperate here, but I vote for knight h4. How bad is this? It might not be that bad. I mean, we sit the knight there. I guess bishop e7 could be complicated. Knight f5. if you take, and then there's threats of bishop h4 check, which is weird, but I guess the white king could walk over to f1. So it may not be clear at all what's really happening here. For example, maybe white is fine. The king will ultimately be safe on g2. Maybe. But again, like a very, very sophisticated and complicated position. Let's see what happens here. The computer likes white's game. What about knight h4? Doesn't like it. Playable, but I'll pass, says the engine. Alright, so castles, queenside. This is what we thought. Man, I could see a knight d5 coming down on us. Like a ton of bricks. Some sort of Smith-Morra sacrifice. Black has to be a little careful. And so this was a blunder, according to the engine. Does he have knight d5? There's no time for this, right? This is crazy. We're just taking this. This is a piece down. We can't do this, I don't think. Wow. For a second, the engine thought it would work if you play this first. But it's too fantastic. Though it looks like it's close enough that it almost works. So white's whole setup was okay. But apparently, like, this is a blunder. All of his chances hinged on the e5 control. He did similar thing, like knight d4, knight f5. The same as knight h4. But I mean, I was saying, like, his king should be on g2 here. It actually still looks okay. The problem is your bishop. With the threat of b5 and a4, what are you going to do about your white square bishop? Now, are you happy you played the hillbilly attack with white? Understandable and risky. He didn't want to see that bishop getting stuffed. White's play was pretty creative. This is like passive, but solid. So the rest of the game looks like should have been equal. Looks like Barbosa. Actually, Coach Ah isn't here. I think Coach Ah actually knows this guy. I'd never met Barbosa. Maybe Coach Ah was in the States and had some insights into Barbosa's style. Said he was very positional or something. Black's obviously a positional player. Playing the Caro-Kann, dark square control, sort of defensive but solid. And I don't think the game is really relevant here. I was interested in this game from the opening perspective. White played a rook sack. That's fun. Wow. He could have taken the rook. Are you serious? Wow. This is unbelievable. He could have taken the sacrifice. Sacrificed his queen with king f8. Naturally, he was afraid to go into this. That's crazy. You could take or mate white with this. That's so sick, man. That's funny. Anyway, black went on to win. White sacked the exchange, but he doesn't have quite enough. Maybe enough for a draw, looks like. But not a really well played game. Lots of mistakes by both sides. So it should still be a draw according to the engine. White probably lost in time pressure. It looks like Zeitnot with lots of blunders. Who knows what the time control was? Anyway. I think more interesting from you change your game submission. Alright, Miro. The Fantasy Caro-Kann, though. This game was very interesting from the opening perspective. I gotta go to the next game. We have limited time. It's 8:30, so we've got about 45 minutes left. So actually, Hey It's Miro is next. He changed just in time. I played a bunch of games trying to submit one. Alright. It looks like Hey It's Miro's been playing better. Stronger lately. Now new and improved. I was just thinking, after the last couple games. Okay, that game degenerated. Who knows what the time control was. But, the opening was really fascinating. The stream will be back on tomorrow, guys. Friday morning, 11. Blitz challenges here on lichess and Twitch. Please support the stream if you can. Please subscribe, support our stream, support my efforts to stay in business. Alright. We can appreciate your donations. E4, E5, knight f3, knight f6, knight takes e5. So Hey It's Miro is white in this game. It's rapid from a month ago. I like playing the Petrov. I actually enjoy playing this opening for both colors. Oh no. The Garbage Gambit. This is a very stupid line that Eric Rosen recommended. But it basically loses by force for black. You're just down a pawn for nothing. Knight takes c6. I mean, no good player plays knight c6. Period. It looks like Van Foreest played it as a joke or something, but you know, in a blitz game maybe. But that's it. You know, it's great for bullet. I mean, I used to like see players in bullet. They would play like knight f3, e5, knight takes e5, knight c6. I mean, there was this guy. Jim probably knows this kind of stuff, but I mean, this is the kind of thing you do in bullet chess, and that's what Eric Rosen is talking about. You know, like tricky openings that you can play in bullet chess, but it's absurd. It's not real chess. This is just absolutely bad. Any good player with good principles is going to be a pawn up here with white for nothing. E4, E5, knight f3, knight f6, knight e5. I mean, it's crazy also, like, to play the Petrov and then play it as a pawn sack. Who plays the Petrov to gambit a pawn? It's the other, like, absurd. I mean, what would your repertoire be like? Alright, knight c6, knight c6, dc6, d3, bishop c5, and now bishop e2. It's another fishing pole thing with knight g4. I'm surprised that no one tries like knight g4 right away. But I guess you go into an endgame by force, right? Bishop g4, queen h4, g3. Can't believe I'm even analyzing this. Queen g4, queen g4, bishop g4. White is just like a pawn up for nothing. That's at the very minimum. Alright, so instead, bishop e2, h5. So Van Foreest managed to draw with 2400. That guy should be ashamed of himself. But, who knows? I mean, it might be a blitz game or something. So h5, c3. Yeah, I mean, this opening is like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. There's a good defense like queen e2, c3, and d4. Yeah, he's basically maybe got other options. But I mean, queen e2, anytime you play queen e2, you're making a very small concession, I guess. So natural development is preferable. Bishop e2, h5, and now, like, it's funny, like, this guy played bishop e3, but that's also a concession of sorts. It looks like Hayes-Miro's plan is better. c3. The problem is, okay, if you play d4, your e-pawn's going to be weak. You're going to have to be able to support that. If you play e5, your pawns get a little extended. Maybe black can have counterplay with, like, c5. You got to be very precise here. So bishop e6. Yeah, I don't understand bishop e6. I mean, it looks like black has to prepare himself for the push d4. So I would anticipate this prophylactic move. That also enables c5. Which sounds crazy, but you know, ultimately if you play c5 your bishop's bad, but you can play c6 and get it back. So it's not like your bishop is shut down forever if black has to play c5. Yeah, thank God that guy is not even close to a master. The national master title. But I hate, like, even, like, discussing this. I feel like it's, like, giving it, like, credibility by even analyzing it. But it's Miro's question. Alright, bishop g5. I don't like this move that much. Can't we play more fundamentally here? Can we play d4? If I have to, I'll play f3. It's over, man. Where I come from, this is over. Even if I have to play f3. Bishop e6. Yeah. I mean, maybe you're not used to moving this many pawns, but I mean, this is not just any pawns. This is game over. If c5, you're coming with d5, or even supporting it with bishop e3. It's over, man. Game over. Never get out of the boat. But bishop g5 I don't really like. You're setting yourself up for sort of like bishop f2 tricks or something. And I don't want to give up any bishops. Now he's like setting up this exchange. Alright, not a big deal, you're up a pawn. This is probably okay. That isn't a good move. For black, definitely. But your next move, really passive. h3. I mean, your position's so good you can do almost anything. But I would prefer development. So it looks like knight d2. You can always play h3 if he tries to stick his knight on that square again. But h3 is probably fine. Alright, h3, queen d7, now knight d2, castle's queenside. And you induced here some complications with e5. But when we push our pawns, we have to be careful we're not giving squares up. I don't I never liked the move bishop g5. I wish your bishop was like back here. Pieces should be behind. This is in my favorite book, Modern Chess Opening Theory by Sweeten, but the idea is the pieces should be behind the shell of the pawns. And you have 8 pawns because you got a free one. Just keep your bishop here safe behind the pawns. This looks like you're overextending your center a little bit. Now what can come of this? He gets a good square on d5. You trade pieces, but he can chip away at your e-pawn with f6 and maybe open things up. I don't like e5. Now his knight is on a very stable square. This counterplay, these breaks, do provide black with some compensation, maybe. Your king is still in the center. And there's stuff like queen g5. So this is getting a little bit careful, like we got to be careful here. Knight f3, and then there's going to be g5 guaranteed. I point to bishop g5 and e5. You know, I really don't like those moves. You didn't have to do that. You take 0 risk against this kind of stuff. And now g5, and it's a little bit chaos. Maybe you're still winning here, but I don't like knight f4. I don't like g4. He's better developed. It's getting way too creepy. There's the check. More concerned about g4, knight f4. I was thinking queen d2. But yeah, it's getting really creepy. He's got this, tactics against d4. All of a sudden all his pieces are coordinated. So he bailed out. But it shouldn't have come to this. I mean, this has gotten like really out of control. It looks like you're playing like Mamedyarov or something. No way he should have had this much counterplay. What? So black just lost his mind? I don't understand. I'm sorry? Black was like playing a completely logical game, and all of a sudden he just goes like rook h6. Whoa. So after pawn takes, what the heck is happening here? I mean, he's got good compensation. I'm not even sure if you're better. Maybe you're in trouble. Due to knight f4, I don't know what to do. Wow. Yeah, I mean, overextending with e5 and bishop g5, black was better. You're in a lot of trouble here. Knight d2, I guess. Knight f4. This is hanging. d4 is endangered. Yeah, c5 breaks. In this sort of position, you could exchange rooks. Maybe, if you're like Anatoly Karpov, you can win this somehow, but your extra pawn is backward and your king is more open than his. I don't really like it. There's just tons of counterplay for black. But you got really lucky. I mean, the guy played rook h6, which is crazy. And now you're just like, clear pawn up for nothing. This totally, no, 2 pawns up, right? You're 2 pawns up now. Oops. And still that's a threat. But maybe g3. Even here, you know, you could be overextended. Knight b6, he tries to use the d5 square. You're going to still have to be careful. Rook h4. This is a really weird and awkward move. I was also worried about this. I think that black has compensation still. Yeah, computer's calling it like dead even. He has so much play here, even though he's down 2 pawns. Knight b4 might be a mistake. I mean, you're obviously intending rook a3. But this is so clumsy. And they have no way to get rid of his knight on b4. Your rook is on a3. The knight is like forever now. Oh my god. It almost makes me wonder if Rook A3 is a mistake. You might be better off just like losing that pawn with check. I just don't know what square to suggest. You know, Rook D2. Something like this. Man. Knight b4 here, a6. So you're 2 pawns up, but you're overextended. And your pieces are clumsy and your king's exposed. Speaking of clumsy. Natural break. The OMG moment. You can't play b3. That's not allowed. It's illegal. I don't accept b3 as a move here. I will not play that. Your rook is... What is that? What are you going to do with your rook after b3? Anything else. Something else. Please find another move. How about queen a5 here? I mean, obviously, if you could trade queens, you'd be out of the woods. But you can't trade queens. But you are threatening to take this. So I was hoping for something crazy here. But let's understand, right? You got very serious problems with bishop f5. Like, you can never play king b1 because of bishop f5 check. But you can maybe get rid of his knight. Actually... Yeah, you can't take on c5, but if you play queen a5, you're threatening to take on c5. So let's say he plays like rook c8. Are you just dead? You can sack a pawn, man. You're 2 pawns up. I'll close the lines if I have to. I think that this is still unclear, but you got your pieces into ridiculous positions. The rook on a3 is very awkward. I'm not sure queen a5 helps. Let's see what the engine says. You're in big trouble. And you shouldn't have played rook a3, probably. This is instructive. Very. I mean, rook d3 is a bad move to start with. You have to anticipate what he's doing. These threats are ominous. But your rook at d2, if you do this, it would work against, you know, that knight. All the squares the knight could come to here, like here, and here. It would be like geometrically dominating those squares and defending certain squares. Ironically, like rook a3 looks like it was a bad move. But this is unthinkable. Rook H4 is awkward, but b3 is the worst. I think that Miro just wanted to give his king a square. But that's like, you know, my eye itches, so I'll like tear my eye out or something. It's the disease is worse than the cure. This is a very, very bad situation. I voted initially for, what was it? Did I say rook c3? That doesn't work. Can I put my rook on another square? Well, instead of rook h4, you have to realize what's happening here before it's too late. What did I suggest? Actually, I don't remember. Can we go back here? We're sorry we ever played rook a3. Promise never to do it again. That's probably not a bad idea. Yeah, man, this was ugly. Wow. So this guy, who was this guy? A 2400. Arik Rosen. Any clue who your opponent was? Why would black... What kind of player would play rook? Honestly, just seriously. What kind of player who was this strong would play rook h6? Like, I want to know. Like, seriously. Can anybody understand that move? Because I just checked. I mean, the guy is like 2,400. But, he's 1,900 in blitz. That's not good. I don't want to start being crazy again. I mean, it's difficult to understand this move, honestly. It looks like a mouse slip, but I mean, what move was he attempting to play? I just don't get it. Black played crazy opening, really weird, a lot of horrible moves, but then you're like in Zugzwang, you know? It seems really weird to me. I guess you did it to yourself, though. It was like self-Zugzwang. You went from like slightly better to utterly lost in a series of moves. B3 being the worst. Let's see what happens, though. Can we survive here? It's doubtful. At least he didn't find the computer suggestion of bishop g4 check. Then I would be suspicious he was an engine. Anyway, I don't know. But I don't like playing players who are 1,900 in bullet and 2,400 in classical. In general, something weird about that game. A little weird about that game. I don't trust anybody anymore. But who knows? All right, guys. You definitely made your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. It was a weirdly played game by Black. Warnaki's up next. There's something very strangely odd about the inconsistency of Black's play in that game. I'll say that. Warnaki. It would definitely filed in the X files games. That should be investigated by paranormal chess investigators. Alright, Warnaki's up. Greetings for late submission. I've got this. The mating pattern in the last 15 moves or so can be safely omitted, since I wanted to do ladder mate and my opponent was being mean, not letting me do it. Okay. The last 15 moves will omit. I'm interested in the middle game. So this is Warnaki, Rapid Chess, playing white. Is this another, like, Eric Rosen opening or something? No, I mean, a lot of people play d5. I would like that move to work, too. One of my teammates, Pro Rock Martin, played this against International Master Laszlo Apriyeshi. I remember Apriyeshi's just really getting up there, and he's not that sharp anymore. But, this should not be okay for Black. Black doesn't have support for the center. And it's not the Grunfeld. There was the guy Chef Master who was playing in my simul's playing stuff like this. It's not nearly as good as the Scandinavian. And I don't think the Scandinavian is the greatest thing for Black either. It goes against principles. You're down a move and you're opening the position with Black and losing a tempo, essentially. Queen d5, knight c3, queen a5. Yabata brought up the funny question, why would Peter Heine Nielsen, who's an opening theoretician, play this opening for black? And I also have to ask that question. The guy's greatest chance would be his opening theoretical knowledge. To play this against Aronian is like resigning. Definitely not a good idea if you're Peter Heine Nielsen. Anyways, so g3, this is totally non-critical. I guess white really must play d4 and occupy the center with that pawn. Because black has a hard time counterattacking the pawn on d4. My other suggestion is knight f3. But black could play e5. Maybe that's what happened in the Nielsen game. So Levon didn't really punish this that brutally. He just did g3. I would assume d4 is better for white. But in that case, black is at least traded off your central pawn. So I suspect d4 is best. g3 is like safe. Well, I mean, you know, if he plays e5, you're taking another pawn. If he takes that, it's another tempo. So then, I guess knight c6, knight f3, knight e5. Yeah, this is true. This is not that simple. Maybe you should just play knight f3 anyway. Maybe you just play knight f3 anyway, and take with a knight, and you're just better. You still have. You're gonna switch to an e4 center, I guess. It's funny that white has very little advantage here according to the computer. Wow. This is disturbing. I would think white would be more than 0.1 better. D takes e5, knight c6, f4. Yeah, I guess this is what Boris Golko would do. This is worth looking into. Probably. If that's the best white has, it's interesting. There's also e4 though. That's what this other guy did. Okay, g3 is solid. I don't like knight c6 here. He's blocking his c-pawn, which might be very important. If nothing else, to bring the queen back to c7 like in the Scandinavian. Plus it blocks your bishop. I mean, this totally makes more sense. You guys see this? Stockfish suggesting f4 for white here? That's insane. Stockfish is out of its mind. It's suggesting white's best move is f4 in this position. That is really, really weird. That is insanely weird. f4, wow. Maybe my computer needs to be tuned up or something. Let's turn this off. I'm skeptical. I guess e5 is that important. The computer will do anything to stop e5. It's principled. Speaking of the devil. But Warnocki's playing this in more of a hyper-modern way. He plays hyper-modern openings like the Nimzovich. Okay. Now he's screwed. So black's just immediately screwed. He has to play bishop h5 or bishop f5, I guess. After this, knight g5, and it's over. Game over. It's like that first game I was talking about where Ubatis got the white square bishop. It's like literally game over. There's nothing he can do. His whole white square is just collapse. You still have it now. It's still crushing. He can try some garbage with h4, but I don't think it's going to work. You have to get that in your head. He should have prevented it. He has f6. And now black might have a reasonable game. I still don't like his queen on a5. But at least he has a plan. And you don't have knight g5. Now f6 again. So h4 is inconsistent. Once you played h3, that's your setup. I don't think you should play h3 and then h4. And he goes crazy. And this is like Kusanam Seipan. Thank you very much. Spasiba. Das Vidanya. Just ridiculous. Giving you a central pawn for nothing. Knight takes e4. Okay, whatever. This is good. I'll trade queens with an eye on g7. Whoops. So I have to be a little bit careful. You open the G file, but I don't think it's a big deal. He's going to get crushed here. Your pawn structure is very solid. Your queen is likely not getting trapped. This is a quiet move. I mean, I would probably prefer to play this if my queen's not getting trapped. Are you getting trapped with knight f5, queen f6, bishop e7? That's a problem. You're not getting trapped though. As long as you're not getting trapped, that's the only thing you have to be careful of. Bishop d2 is okay. I like the other knight capture better because I want to keep his d4, keep his knight covered there. I suppose this is still okay, but I don't like this getting in. That's not good. You got a problem with e2, and you've got a problem with a knight fork here. He probably can't play it right away because you had queen e7. Now he can play it. He doesn't play it. I mean, knight d4. He can't play it. Here, oh my god. So I guess he has to try anything to not trade queens. Any move. Someone on sound can help. Finding a way to avoid trading queens, I guess. Queen b6. Yuck. Anyway, good job just trading down. And queen d5 was played into the diagonal. Yeah, I mean, this is like a little bit weird. I'm concerned about the d4 square. His queen's in an exposed position, but you also have mates on c7. So what if you just played something like this? Or even rook a c1. I guess he'll take your pawn. But I guess rook f c1. That looks really serious. You prevent him from playing knight d4. But this move is a little bit weird. Your knight is off sides on f6. He's got that nasty threat. He hung his queen. He's got to have a sensible move here. Maybe not. Well, I mean, if nothing else, he could play queen d4 and trade on his terms. I guess that's probably his best try. Hoping that you take and bring his knight to d4. I don't see another suggestion, actually. Maybe b5. But I guess there you just play a4. It's hard to find a good square for his queen. f5. Can I get f5? Maybe. I found a better idea. Yeah, this is the ticket. He can play queen f5. And now what do you do? It's not so easy. I didn't like knight f6. I think knight f6 was a mistake. This is obviously a problem, though. He's basically just like trading stuff. Losing a piece. At least. And that's it. Yeah. 2 pieces down. You did a good job, though, like trading down when you're up. There's no special prize for killing the opponent as brutally as possible. Though there must be a mating net here. You have a mate in 2 with rook f7, rook f4. You know he has only 1 square. You can close in on him with this check. And then when he goes to e4, you have rook f4. Should have seen that. I won't focus on this too much. Alright, we got 2 games left, guys. I gotta go. So, duck, sack, and our last submission was Edward. King Crusher rating with a party 49. What's up, King Crushers? We're analyzing a couple games here. Welcome to the King Crusher crew. Thanks for the raid, man. Hope you're good. King Crusher's been doing this longer than me. I just respect him. Ready to analyze the last 2 games. Hope King Crusher is good. Almost missed that raid, though. I was so focused on the game. Thanks for the raid, man. Appreciate it. I can't thank you guys enough for watching. And if the King Crushers enjoyed the stream, come back. Alright, we've got 2 last games to analyze here. I'm getting a little bit confused. Bang bang, right? Follow King Crusher. Thanks, Mr. Coffee, for that shout out reminder. Bang bang drama with NM Sidomania. He started with a mouse slip. I wanted g3, not g4. Alright, let's check it out. Oh, that's funny. On move 2. So we've got Bang Bang Drama playing white, and he mouse slips g4. It's not the worst mouse slip in the world. You got the g file. You might want to prepare it with rook g1 next time. This is some German master, Horst Albert, who I never met, but he's got a lot of weird opening games. It's a little sounder than g4, though, for your next mouse slip. You might want to reach for the rook. Yeah, g4 is not that stupid. You can play like Shirov style in the Philidor. It's not really a line. I mean, rook g1's not a line. It's just a random guy who plays crazy stuff. g4, knight g4, rook g1. Probably good for bullet chess. You know, what is a line is this crazy... This happens sometimes, g4. Braunstein Gambit. This is a little bit better. Knight f3 doesn't help you that much. After knight to g4, you can try to take the center. It's not sound, but it's like a better version. It's interesting in this position, though. Going back to this position, I always reflexively want to play d6. But it's funny that it looks like d5 is actually better than d6. Though my intuition was not to play d5. It seems like d6 is even stronger. I mean, d5 is even stronger than d6 in that weird gambit. Anyway, knight f3 doesn't contribute really much to white's attack here. So d3. Basically, white is just down a pawn in a very strange position. Digamanyan, thanks for being a subscriber. We're just analyzing the last two games for today's subscriber analysis stream. White blundered with the mouse slip. Under normal circumstances, I would never really normally do this. Castle queenside into a strong bishop on g7. I mean, having said that, it happens in the dragon, but the dragon is very dangerous if white doesn't have a strong attack of his own. And you never do it in the Benoni, and you definitely don't do it very often in the closed Sicilian. But it's an exceptional situation where white blundered a pawn, so he's trying to create something crazy, and he clearly can't castle kingside. Black actually played pretty well here. This completely makes sense. With b5, queen a5, black was smart. Now you played knight e1. I mean, it's the idea to play f4, like in a closed Sicilian. The knights can pop back to here, here, and here. Your question is where he went wrong. Well, I mean, so far so good for black. I'm not sure if he should have placed the knight on d7, though, or c6 seems more natural. But I mean, clearly black is winning. He's up a pawn. My first reaction is for black to play e6 now. He did. Maybe he's got something resolute. I don't know. Knight d5, pawn d5. This is obviously very dangerous, though. We don't really want to do that. He could probably try bishop f6 and then walking his king over, or maybe even doing like a kind of Karpov king walk to c7, but it doesn't seem right, you know. I like e6, and you avoided the exchange. Black has to be careful. Shouldn't he? Could he play g5 at some point, by the way? Actually, could he play g5 now? If he plays g5 now, you don't have any sort of sacrifices. And I mean, he can come out to h5 and take your bishop out. So what are you going to do? I guess theoretically you could leave it there and his bishop is hanging on g7. But if you play along with him, you know, this kind of thing I was wondering about, I guess. Knight h5. It's like a dark square strategy. He has f4, the bishop opens up. He has relatively good control of e5. You don't seem to have any way of like opening the position very easily. I guess you can still try f4 though. But he hasn't castled, you know? I mean, worst case scenario like this. This. You take out the bishop. Still, it's not that clear. Let's see what happens. e6, knight e3, bishop a6. Okay, this move I definitely understand, but it's not my favorite. Yeah, I don't know. This is a problem. He suddenly walked into knight c4. Could you play knight c4? No, because of takes and knight e4. So f4, and that's a clear plan. Now he doesn't know what to do. He's afraid to castle kingside. I would be too, because f5 looks fairly strong. It's not that obvious or easy to say where he went wrong. It doesn't look like he made like one blunder. But obviously this is a very bad sign. If you have to play bishop f8, there's something not right about bishop f8. That's not good. I understand he was afraid of the g file, but then something's gone wrong. I guess I'm going to have to say my only suggestion concretely there was, another thing, yeah. I mean, going back earlier, like bishop g5, right? Why is he putting his knight on d7? I mentioned this briefly, but it seems to be a problem. It's unnatural, Why would you prefer to put your knight on d7 to c6, which is a better square? So that's weird in the first place. He should have just played like bishop g7 in the first place and put his knight on a normal square on c6, and then his bishop would have been on a good diagonal, where it's much more useful. So that's one thing. But I think later I would have played g5 if I were him and been more concrete. Anyways. Bishop f8, I understand, but it's like, okay, now it's looking like you have a good game. Pawn down or whatever. I mean, black's king is not safe. In fact, you probably have more than one way to play here. This is like white's just coordinated and black's not. You have all sorts of ideas. e5, knight c4, bishop g2 with the idea of knight c4, but I guess he is guarding d6. Maybe the knight c4 went down in value now. You even, I guess you could even think about something like queen g2. But f5 is the most natural. So he has to try to keep the position closed. But I'm surprised by this now. Why are you playing bishop takes f6? That doesn't seem like a good exchange. I see no reason to give up your bishop for his knight here. You should just play normally. Pawn takes pawn. I need a really good reason to do that. His bishop is unopposed. It's blocked in now, but it could have potential later on. I'm not in love with trading that off. So let's see. He decides to castle queenside, which is interesting. But he has lots of different moves here. I mean, e5. Normally you want to keep the position closed when the other guy's like trying to open it up and kill you. So e5 makes some sense. Obviously after e5, the white squares. He has a bad bishop and you have compensation. No question. But at the very minimum, he could play that. I want to see what the computer says. Yeah. My assessment is that after e5, you have compensation, but he keeps the position closed. I don't think bishop f6 was necessarily a good move. Now it's unclear, but you have this really nasty bishop h3, don't you? Ooh. He practically has to lose that. He could try rook e8. But this game is a good lesson, like something Bronstein was very good in, coordination. You know, it seems like black had trouble coordinating. Honestly, he has a position right. Just listen. I know we've got to get to the last game, but he's like up a pawn in the opening, and he's kind of playing wildly with queen a5 and this extremely aggressive setup. Another question, why is black doing that, you know? Why can't black just like chill and be up a pawn? Why is he spazzing out with like queen a5, b5, b4? I would just be like, okay, thanks for the pawn. Now I'm just going to consolidate my position and be up a pawn. He played a little too aggressively for someone who just like won a pawn in the opening. That would be more of a general assessment of how black lost or where did black go wrong. I think stylistically he's playing the position wrong. You know, you get a free pawn in the opening, you play and grind them down. Knight d7, knight f3, you're better coordinated. Now finally his queen is like back in the game. That was the extent of the value of queen a5. It sat there for 10 moves and then went back to d8. I've been there, believe me. Knight b3 is weird though. I feel like you should go to the open file here. He's trying to trade queens, but he's got to watch for knight a5. Now his bishop is back. Uh-oh. That's a problem. So this was a really complex game. He understands trade queens. And now he does trade queens. Wow. He's got nice bishops. I really wanted you to have time to play bishop g2. I'm not sure if you should trade queens here. I think the engine is siding with not trading queens. You're still down a pawn, and he's got two nasty bishops. I mean, can he take here? What's happening? It's a pity to have to give up that D pawn. I was almost thinking he could play like d5, but this is crazy. He has to take back. He's only a little bit better now after you grab the pawn on d6. Yeah. So this is risky. He could have grabbed on h3. So now you have a position where your knights are pretty good, but I still think that black is alright. Well, that's a problem. It was a tough game, I mean. But he's getting close to a mating net or something. What about this position? Do you have some tricks? It looks like you have tricks here, like knight b6, pawn b6, rook d7. Doesn't work. That's devastating. It doesn't work. It looks like you almost have something here. I can't believe it. Rook b5 is a draw. That's ridiculous. But he was lost. Knight c6 check. This is very hard to see though in time pressure. Yeah, I mean it's a messy game. Now you're threatening mate. You got the a4, but if a5, I mean if b5, Rook b5. Oof. And knight b4 check. That's not good. No, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth there. It was a very messy game. All right, last game is submission from Dr. Chip Chance. You're too late. We got Edward. Last game. I'm over schedule. I'm already an hour. 30 minutes over schedule. Thanks for joining us. Do you have any thoughts on the Zaitsev Gambit? You're talking about like against the Benko? What are you talking about? Zaitsev Gambit. Against the Benko? I think it's bad. Maybe you're talking about a different Gambit. What is the Zaitsev Gambit? That's the only Zaitsev Gambit. What's that? No, I don't know what line you're talking about. Okay. Profile. I only know his Gambit in the Benko. We'll check this out. So the game's submitted here. Oh yeah. Oh, I thought it was a Grunfeld. It is a Grunfeld. Okay, yeah. Well, I think I mentioned this on my stream. I don't know anything about it. I didn't know this was tribute to Zaitsev. It's funny. I mean, all the Grunfeld books that I own from pre-2000, like, I've never seen this, like, even, like, given any credibility whatsoever. Yeah, anytime you're safer with the king, Duck, I think, you know, you naturally don't want to trade queens. But black should have been okay, too. It was a back and forth game. A lot to learn from that. Yeah, I don't know. You know, this is weird. I'm surprised it didn't catch on, you know, much earlier. But it's funny how you never saw this played. There's a game here by Bossboom in '97. I don't ever remember even seeing this played in Blitz prior to 2000. But, like, people are getting more desperate. It's interesting. People are getting more desperate for new ideas. What else? Sorry. Back to the game. It's hard to believe that white can get an advantage. I mean, the move is unprincipled. I mean, I do stuff like this, but... Having said it's unprincipled, the problem with the Grunfeld is that black does not support his center. C takes D has to be white's best move. But, I mean, it's a matter of principle. It's amazing that black can equalize as many lines as he can. It seems like the Grunfeld shouldn't even come close to equalizing based on fundamental principles. It's really weird, you know? He doesn't support his center, and, like, he could just be okay. I mean, H4 is a coffeehouse style attacking move. I'm sure if you analyze this with computers, black is fine. But if you're not playing someone who's 2600, it's going to be dangerous. And it's probably sound enough that you're not worse. So it's as good as anything, in other words. But we can't just take Stockfish's 0.0 analysis here for granted. Let's see what happened. Bishop G7. I can't just analyze the whole opening. Shiro Shlyosh, 1999. First game. So it's funny that, like, most players play C6. Can black play C5? That's where my money goes. Whatever Peter Spidler says in his video, I don't know, man. I seriously see C5 in a lot of lines where it's, like, surprising. I would check this first. There's no way, you know, c6 is black's best move, but it looks solider. I mean, there's a lot of lines in the London Yabava stuff where black plays like c6, doesn't even play bishop g7. That's what black's thinking here. Maybe I'll delay bishop g7 altogether. 40 moves deep is a lot. So I'm interested in c5 and bishop g7. The other moves, like, okay, d takes c4, worth looking at. That's also a possibility. Reactionary moves I don't like as much. h5 and h6. Playable, but I don't think that can be best. But let's see what happened here. Bishop g7, okay, the most obvious move. And now h5. You can't allow h6, so it's out of the question. Black has to play capture on h5. G takes h5 leaves him with a bad structure. So this is forced. If you play bishop g7, you have to play knight h5. I guess. Well, I can't do like a Wang, Yui, Dutch rook sacrifice here. cd5. And now black played knight f6. Yeah, knight f6 is a weird move by black. I don't know anything about the theory of this. I don't really play the Grunfeld since like 1999, so I'm pretty much not keeping up with any kind of theory. But I mean, the knight is fine. You know, you can't play g4, it just hangs a pawn. Why does he feel like he has to move his knight back to f6? He wants to get your central pawn. But it doesn't make sense. I mean, after knight f6, you're playing e4 and you're like rolling him. That's Sherish versus Dembo, 2001. Laios is a good player. He's inactive. But obviously, you know, black stands worse. You sacrifice the pawn to open the h-file, and you haven't even really had to sacrifice a pawn. You've got one in the center instead. He gave you his his d pawn for your h pawn, which is a good exchange. And now c6. So that seems to be the line that everybody plays the most. c6. Another Sherish game. Simon Williams and Michael Basman. Well, you know you're in good company. So Basman basically invented this. People do crazy stuff when they're confronted with surprising things, I think. They become irrational. That's like storming the White House. Those people were completely irrational. Out of their mind and crazy. I guess playing h4 upsets some people and they don't know how to react. They just like go nuts. Yeah, I already don't like this. So I'm curious about this move. If you want my personal opinion. What does c5 do? I was thinking about this maybe for 5 minutes last couple weeks ago, but I never really analyzed it. It just occurred to me, like, what would happen if black played c5? I'd like to play that move. It seems weird to play it before you've even put your bishop on g7. So this is interesting. D takes c5. And that's not what Stockfish is recommending. Stockfish likes the cd5 line, but it's only going depth 20. And black has a great score there. So d takes c5, d4, knight b5, Cebalo versus Ryazantsev. Cebalo has played this a couple times, but he's like a senior. This looks like a problem. This may just be not good for white. So this is my recommendation. You're going to have to find something here. The c5. Anyway, let's see what happened in the game. In the game, h4, bishop g7. Yeah, you got a good game here. So he has to play c6. You're following the Dembo game. Lajos won 2 games. Another game from every game's from Hungary. That's funny. So castles maybe what Ilya Balinov played. A little bit better. And this is new. So Shuto Gabor played e5. But there is a square here. What happens after knight d5? This is just weird. Like white doesn't have much. It doesn't make sense. I don't think white has much here. It looks playable for black. So your move is just an improvement on that game. This is stronger. Wow. Yeah, d5 is just stronger. And so you have e5, e6. I thought it was over, but black has the Acer mate. It's actually not mate. You're going to be doing a Korchnoi like king walkout to c2 and b3 though. This would be funny. If takes, check, king d2, queen e3 check, draw, queen g3 check, king d2. My god. It's like a Pierce or something. But anyway, no, he would go to c2. Check. Here, c2, f5 check, king b3. And then there's an unpleasant check at the end. So that doesn't seem sufficient. White's just winning. It's a perpetual check, though. This is a good prearranged draw position. So you weren't interested in the prearranged draw. Played knight h3, guarding f2. And that's a refutation, ladies and gentlemen. And is it the only refutation? Very likely. Like, it's the only way of protecting f2. So queen b6 is fine, except for this. And he's just busted. Yeah, you're just winning. No mate. You could have gone the other way with the king, I guess, but you wanted to go to g2. It's just safe. I mean, this still could open up. You have to be careful about his white square bishop in particular. But it's not enough. Black's just out of ammunition now. Any kind of cute. Blundered the main in one. Okay, there was time involved. Time pressure for both sides. Yevgeny made no inaccuracies and 3 mistakes. Alright guys, I gotta go. It's really late for me. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna be back tomorrow morning somehow. Appreciate your participation. We will be back tomorrow morning at 11 with Blitz. Thanks everybody for submitting games. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks from the Panda.
Hey, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Bye-bye.